As a politics follower, you'll no doubt remember the 2019-20 Hong Kong protests, when people clashed with the police over China's democratic crackdown. Since then, though, the CCP's clampdown has only got worse, with a further national security law introduced in March 2024. Moreover, Hong Kong's economy, once one of the world's leading financial hubs, has also slowed, with tens of thousands of workers, particularly young people, leaving the city every year. So in this video, we'll take a look at Hong Kong's democratic and economic crises, why things are getting even worse, and what this means going forward. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. But first, let's start with some history. From 1841 until the end of the 20th century, Hong Kong was a British colony. In the 1950s, after Cold War-era sanctions on mainland China meant it was no longer a reliable trade partner, Hong Kong became a successful textiles exporter and had a series of trade deals with the UK. In the 1970s, Hong Kong's GDP grew at an average of 8.9%, and in the 1980s it averaged 7.4%. In 1984, the UK and China signed the Sino-British Joint Declaration, agreeing to transfer sovereignty of Hong Kong to China in 1997. After this, Hong Kong was administered under China's one country, two systems principle and the Basic Law, becoming a special administrative region of China with its own legal and political systems until 2047, when it will be fully returned to the mainland. Anyway, after 1997, Hong Kong's economy began to slow. It took a few external hits, first the 1998 Asian financial crisis, then the bursting of the IT Nasdaq bubble in 2000, then the 2003 SARS outbreak. While it managed to bounce back each time, Hong Kong struggled to keep up with China's economic boom, and its GDP as a share of China's began to decline, slumping to just 2% in 2021. This isn't to say that Hong Kong wasn't doing well economically, but rather that mainland China was expanding more rapidly. Cheaper labour in China made its manufacturing industry more competitive, and Hong Kong was forced to move up the value chain, becoming a global financial and professional services hub. Just look at the huge presence of foreign companies. In 2007, more than 3,800 foreign firms, around 3 times the number today, had chosen the city as their regional headquarters. But over the past decade, things have taken a downturn. There's two main interrelated issues here: Hong Kong's democratic rule of law crisis and its economic crisis. Hong Kong's democratic crisis started properly in 2014, when the CCP proposed a set of reforms to Hong Kong's electoral system that would allow them to pre-screen candidates for the highest office, the Hong Kong chief executive. This process, sometimes called stage-managed democracy, was viewed as a form of democratic backsliding, overriding Hong Kong's right to universal suffrage. Subsequently, China further intensified its crackdown on free speech, with the Hong Kong government's proposed introduction of another bill in 2019, the Extradition bill, sparking another lot of violent protests. The Extradition bill threatened to have Hong Kongers tried in mainland China, which could have subjected them to a different legal system, once again eroding their rights in the Basic Law. While the bill was ultimately scrapped, yet another one, the National Security Law, known as Article 23, was enacted in 2020, with a further law passed in 2024. Under Article 23, crimes like treason, sedition, and subversion can be punished with a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. And this week, dozens of activists from the Hong Kong 47 were given jail time for their role in organising an unofficial opposition primary election in 2020. China likely views Article 23 as a natural step in the integration of Hong Kong into the mainland, but for Hong Kongers it's a form of oppression and has prompted much international outcry. In practical terms, Article 23 has also led to an exodus of people from their territory. In 2024 alone, 5 foreign judges have left Hong Kong's top court, including former UK Supreme Court Judge Lord Jonathan Sumption, who warned in June that the city was slowly becoming a totalitarian state. Voter participation has also declined, with turnout at the 2023 District Council elections plummeting to a record low. Anyway, now let's move back to the economy. Hong Kong's economy was already battered by the COVID-19 pandemic, and tourist numbers are still not back to the pre-pandemic levels. The CCP's ultra-strict zero-COVID policy meant that restrictions were in place well later than in most countries, further hurting business. But Hong Kong's economic crisis was also worsened by the national security law. Article 23's vague definition of state secrets has spooked foreign firms, as normal business activities like auditing, financial analysis, and due diligence could feasibly trespass into the realm of state secrets. Businesses duly saw this as a risk, and the number of multinational companies with regional headquarters in Hong Kong fell from 1,541 in 2019 to 1,336 in 2023, with US firms accounting for one of the biggest drops. Employees are also leaving too. At the height of zero COVID in early 2022, tens of thousands of financial sector professionals left Hong Kong for places like Singapore. Moreover, in fear of Article 23, Hong Kong's many young workers are also emigrating, shrinking its labour force. A recent survey conducted by the Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce found that 74% of companies are facing a talent shortage. On top of this, the Hang Seng Index, which measures Hong Kong's stock market, has been steadily falling since 2021. Investment in property is slowing, and Hong Kong's GDP growth rate is projected to fall over the coming years too. So, what's next for Hong Kong? Well, there are a few trends that will likely continue over the coming years. First, the CCP will further intensify its crackdown on democracy, not just within Hong Kong, but also abroad. There are emerging reports about Chinese transnational repression. For example, in 2022 at the Chinese consulate in Manchester, Hong Konger Bob Chan was dragged by his hair and beaten by staff, forcing the UK to expel 6 Chinese diplomats. Secondly, young people will continue to leave the territory. Departures from Hong Kong, mostly to other parts of China, now outnumber mainland arrivals by almost 3-1. But workers are also moving abroad. In 2020, the UK introduced a special BNO visa for Hong Kong, which has so far seen 150,000 Hong Kongers move to the UK. This disenfranchisement is compounded by the fact that mainlanders emigrating to Hong Kong often have the upper hand in job applications, as they speak better Mandarin and have networks in China. Ultimately, China is steadily increasing its control over Hong Kong, while erasing Western influence. We should, however, point out that rising US-China tensions are also a fundamental cause behind Hong Kong's downfall. For decades, Hong Kong's geopolitical neutrality was the foundation of its freedom and prosperity, but this era is now very clearly coming to an end. Now, obviously, all of that is pretty complicated, but hopefully our analysis has made it a little clearer. Making videos like this requires a lot of effort and research to uncover what's really going on, before then summarising it into something that makes sense to everyone. But that's an expensive process. Running TLDR this year has cost just under £800,000, which, when your main product is free YouTube videos, is quite a lot of money. If you want to support our journalism in 2025, then one way to do so is picking up a copy of our magazine Too Long. That's because buying Too Long doesn't just get you a high-quality magazine, it also allows you to invest in independent journalism and join us in shaping the future of news. Now, this most recent issue focuses on the 29 biggest elections of the year, making sure you understand what really happened in this mega election year and commemorating one of the biggest years in news. We don't just discuss elections, though. We also run through China's trade issues, Biden's successes and failures, and the UK's new opposition leader, and the state of the wars in Ukraine and Gaza. Plus, the fact it's a magazine also means we're not constrained by the time limits or algorithms imposed by YouTube. Unlike fleeting news cycles and algorithmic feeds, Too Long offers thought-provoking analysis and comprehensive coverage that's truly worth holding. If you're convinced, you have 3 more decisions to make. First, do you want a physical or digital copy? The physical is a high-quality 60-page perfect-bound magazine shipped right to your door. The digital is slightly cheaper, especially if shipping is a concern. Your second choice is the standard or premium edition. The standard is just a copy of the magazine, while premium also gets you access to our monthly behind-the-scenes podcast, The Bullpen, where we break down all of the production of Too Long and TLDR more generally, and you'll get your name printed in the thank you section of the magazine. Finally, do you want to subscribe? If you do, you'll get a copy of Too Long every 4 months, meaning you'll never miss an issue. Plus, you'll also get 25% off every copy as long as you stay subscribed. If you can, subscribing also gives us a reliable income stream, which is super useful for us. Regardless of which option you choose, you can buy a copy right now at toolong.news or click the link in the description. Thanks for your support, and thanks for backing Too Long.